So, David, welcome
Thank you.
and good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, you have worked for Kaspersky in cybersecurity field for a while now.
Yes.
And you have seen the cutting edge things which are happening in this field. Could you tell us a little bit about the key challenges in cybersecurity which corporations are facing?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, really. And Kaspersky Lab is a company that spans consumer right through to business. But the challenges of businesses today is they don't know where the threats are coming from. Okay, and the challenges of any security company is trying to stay one step ahead of everybody all the time. And that's very, very difficult to do. And we have this thing called day zero and then day +1, which is when a virus is actually found. And that's a very, very important part in the timeline of a virus. Being able to identify it, put a solution in place to sort of keep it out of the systems, and then trying to put it into quarantine. But that's a day. That's all you have.
Right.
So any company that's attacked by a cybersecurity issue really has a very short window to actually try and resolve it. There's been many opportunities or issues here in banks in the UK in particular. I think around about last Christmas, Royal Bank of Scotland had an issue where people couldn't take money out of the ATMs.
Wow.
Okay, everybody thought it was some issue with programming of the ATMs. No, it was a cybersecurity attack. It took them a week to discover it. The challenge that has for a company, though, is the fact that their customers lose trust in them as an organization.
Absolutely.
And the biggest cost to them is actually either keeping or regaining those customers that decide to leave because they lack trust is broken. Yeah, so that's one of the biggest issues that companies face today. And in the world of cybersecurity, it's invisible to most of us. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know which country is doing it, what organization is doing it, and it could be for malicious reasons, and it could almost just be for fun. Yeah. Sometimes, there was a big issue with Apple in 2013, as Apple is seen as an organization that the operating system doesn't suffer like Windows does for all these viruses. So the hackers just went to prove a point that they could get into the systems of Apple and actually cause havoc, as you might say. And therefore, that's one of the challenges that organizations face is what is the reason for it? And ultimately, it is really down to they want data and information.
Okay. So, in your point of view, as a first line of defense, what should corporations do to enhance their their orientation towards cybersecurity and be prepared?
Yeah, and on one hand, there's obvious technical solutions that they need to put in place, but I think as much of that, it's the human side of it. People, me as employees, need to be aware of what to look out for. Again, great examples. A PDF file that you receive, you receive it from your CEO. You think it must be good, safe, or whatever else. PDFs and Adobe Acrobat is one of the most insecure things that are out there today.
Wow.
Okay, and there's more viruses spread through PDF files than almost anything else in the world.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, we all get blasé about it. Oh, it's a PDF file, I've got the Acrobat reader, let me go have a look at that. Before you know it, you've got a virus on your machine. So the thing about it is education. Make people understand and be aware of what it is they should be looking for, how to treat these things, having the appropriate software on the machine to scan those files before they open them, and all those sorts of procedures that should be in place to ensure the corporation is protecting itself from anything from the outside world.
And for corporations, for organizations, nonprofits, etc., what advice would you have for them to prepare their employees and customers, internal, external, suppliers, etc., to be almost proactive in terms of finding these threats or managing these threats? Is there something companies can do on a wide scale so that they are not vulnerable?
Yeah, and as I say, it comes back to, you mentioned the word orientation. I think it begins at the day when an employee starts. It should be as important as the physical security of getting your badge to get into the office. Okay, now how do we, as a company, what's our policies, our procedures for protecting the data that is so valuable to us? We hear all the time, particularly here in the UK, of MPs that leave a file on a train or whatever else. That's an easy thing to see and spot. You can see it there, but it's just as vulnerable for a USB stick. Okay, we use them all the time nowadays, don't we? We share files with each other. But they, again, are probably one of the biggest ways that viruses are shared between organizations as well as within the organization. Because the virus, it lives on the USB stick, and you stick it into the next computer, and lo and behold, it spreads onto that computer as well. So it's all of those procedures that people need to understand. And therefore, should all the data be encrypted? Right. Absolutely. Why not? And therefore, companies need to actually have that in their processes and procedures.
And one last question, David. A lot of us get emails which might look to us fishy or might not, and we might not be able to, figure it out. What advice would you have for consumer to be aware of emails which might, put them on a level of threat? Or
it's always it's a terrible situation to be in, but the first question always has to be, who is it from? Do I know the person it's from?
All right.
Okay, because if you don't know who it's from, then you really need to be cautious, because there are so many examples. And I was just mentioning to somebody this morning, I get emails from what appears to be Apple telling me my Apple account has been compromised and I need to change my password, which I'm happy to do, but not by clicking through this email to do it.
Right.
I should go to my Apple account on iTunes and change my password on there, because I know that's Apple. I really don't know where the click through on my email is actually going to. And that's an important piece for consumers to consider, is do they know where the email came from, and therefore do they know where they're going to go if they click through on this email?
That is great. One thing I could not resist myself asking you is, we as educators and trainers, what aspects of cybersecurity should we emphasize in terms of training the general population? Not like technical skills per se, but for general populations for variety of backgrounds.
Well, it's interesting, and Kaspersky Lab is involved in a number of universities around the world, both promoting the topic of cybersecurity as an educational course, right, but also looking at, so what are the skills required to excel and exceed in this world of cybersecurity? And it's, originally it was a mathematical science. Okay. And it still maintains to be a mathematical science. Right. But now there's a lot of human behavior has to come involved, because the hackers are getting very smart, and they think about things, trying to think of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then trying to find a way around it. So psychology comes involved in these things as well. So it's not just a scientific thing anymore. It is actually about human behavior. And the more you understand human behavior and what we do as human beings, right, then you can try to predict then what the hackers are thinking about in terms of their next threat that they're developing, actually going to cause us harm and trouble.
Right. Okay. So corporation is as vulnerable as its weakest link, really.
Absolutely, yeah. This is why I say the human element of a corporation is one of the biggest things that they need to focus on. What are the processes, their training, and procedures to make people aware? Because they can put all the technology they like in place, but it still takes one human being to plug in a USB stick into a computer that's connected to the network, and you could be vulnerable.
Right. Thank you, David. That was really insightful.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.